What's up, Y&J gang? It's your girl Yvette. It is currently 10:53 at night. I was been supposed to make a video a couple hours ago, but my son is just now falling asleep, so I actually have the peace and quiet time. As you can tell by the title, I'm doing a video on, a story time on how it is being an independent mother. It's going to be a pretty long video, but that's okay. Before we get into the video, just do me one favor and make sure you smash that like button, comment down below for different ideas on what I should do, story times, vlogs, pranks, whatever ideas you have, comment down below, and make sure you smash that subscribe button. So before we start, I'm 26 going on 27 on Monday. My son is 4 years old, and his biological father is not in his life. I'm not going to say that it's easy, and I'm not going to say it's like horrible. So I'm going to start from the beginning. So back when I was 22 years old, my best friend had my ex-best friend had her own apartment, and at that point I knew his father, but we were only associates. We weren't really like texting or hanging out or anything. We was basically just friends, and I knew his cousin who was dealing with my best friend at the time, my ex-best friend at the time. So one night they asked what we were doing, and we said we were just chilling, doing nothing major, and they ended up coming over, stayed a couple hours. I mean, she had her own apartment, so I don't really have to explain what really happened from there. I mean, it wasn't just, them just come there and that happens and then they go home. No, they came there, we chilled, we ate, we listened to music, we played around, joked around, and then it led to that. And then a couple hours later, they ended up leaving. So before they left, as they was getting ready to leave, they walked out the door and realized that the car that they drove to my ex-best friend's house in was gone. Literally gone. He had the keys to the car and everything, but the car was missing. He started freaking out, and it all comes down to, I thought that the car was his, but it really comes down to that the car was really his mom's. So he called his mom and was like, "Mom, the car's missing," and she asked where he was at. Of course, she didn't know. So he finally told her, like, "Yeah, well, I'm at this girl's house, blah, blah." Long story short, the car ended up getting towed. So his mom had to come all the way to the house to come pick him and his cousin up. And literally, to fast forward a little bit, so after the whole situation of that night, we weren't really like talking how we used to before he came over to her house. So after we did what we did and he left, it was more like, the conversation was, "Hey, how you doing? How's your day?" And that was it. Didn't really communicate with him like that. I didn't really think anything of it, but at the time, like maybe like a month or month and a half after, I realized that my period was late. Now, remind you, if anybody that knows me, anybody that watches this video, especially like an ex-best friend or my recent best friend, will know that I get my menstrual cycle around the same time every single month. So when that month went by and I realized that I didn't get it, I really thought like maybe the seasons are changing, so maybe that's why I didn't get it on time. So I let another 30 days go by, so we're now on month 2. So we get to month 2, and I just didn't feel like myself. Like, I felt sick. I always felt sleepy. So at the time, my friend was like, "Well, I'm about to go to the hospital because I don't feel good." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll go with you because I don't feel good." So we ended up going. We was in the hospital for hours. We were there for so long. So we were there for a little while, and I went in the back. I told the doctor what was wrong. He asked me what my symptoms was, and I said, well, the first issue is that I haven't gotten my period in 2 months, and that's like abnormal for me because I usually get it every month around the same time. So he was like, "Oh, well, did you take any pregnancy tests?" And I said, "No." He was like, well, why not? And I said, because I didn't feel like I needed to. I just didn't understand why my period was late. So he was like, well, is there any chance that you may be pregnant? And honestly, when he asked me that, my first reaction was no, there's no way. But then I thought about it, and I knew that I had had intercourse with the boy. So I said no automatically, but he was like, okay, well, we're just going to take some of your urine or whatever, test it, and see if you're pregnant. So I was like, okay. So, you know, I gave him the urine sample or whatever, and I was just chilling. I was in the room with my friend because we was in the same room. And we actually seen the same doctor. So that he asked what we, like, did we come together? And I was like, yeah. And so that was that. And we was there for like maybe 6 hours. So it came out to be that me and her were both pregnant at the same exact time. So when I found out I was pregnant, I automatically busted out in tears. I didn't know what to do, how to act, what to say, how to feel. I really didn't know what to do or how to react. And at that time, I'm still living with my mom, but I was always at her house because that was my best friend. So that's where I was at. So just to rewind a little bit. So after we did what we did at my best friend's house, and after the day after and days after, of course, when we like stopped talking completely, I kind of knew something was up, but I never really questioned it. So what happened was when I realized that I was wasting my time to keep on texting him and basically trying to entertain him, I came back in contact with an ex-boyfriend. So when I got back in contact with him, we ended up getting back together eventually. Not right away, but eventually. And this is before I found out I was pregnant. So we got back together. We was on good terms. And at that point, the boy that I had sex with was missing, like gone. I wasn't even worrying about him at that point. I completely cut him off, blocked his number, whatever I had to do. So me and the ex-boyfriend that I had got back with, we were back on good terms. We were back together. So he knew that I was going to the hospital because I wasn't feeling good. He also knew that that I hadn't got my period. So when we first got back together, I literally explained to him that I had dealt with someone else before him and that I hadn't got my period for 2 months. So he was okay with it because he really couldn't have said anything because we weren't together, so he can't really judge me on that part. So so back to the hospital. So when I found out I was pregnant, we basically got discharged because there was really nothing they could do because we were pregnant. So I had asked the doctor, I'm like, okay, well, if I'm pregnant, how far along am I? So he told me I was 8 weeks and 5 days, and that and basically that was it, that I was 8 weeks and 5 days. And basically I had to follow up with my doctor so I can start taking my prenatal pills and make my appointments and stuff like that. So I was just like, all right. I was overwhelmed. I didn't know what to think, what to say, what to do, what I was going to tell my mom, because my mom was going to kill me literally. So I didn't know, and I didn't go right home either. I stayed at my best friend's house my ex-best friend. I was staying at her house. So I stayed at her house for maybe a good 2 or 3 days. But this is where it gets a little interesting. So the boy that I got back with had when I got out of the hospital, the first person I told was him, because he knew. My mom didn't know. I never told my mom that I didn't get my period, because I already knew she was going to react saying, oh, well, you're pregnant and blah blah blah, and it was too much for me. So the only two people that knew was my ex-best friend and my current boyfriend, which was him. So I really didn't think that he was going to go run his mouth and tell anybody, because it was really nobody's business, and it wasn't for him to go tell anyone, because I told him from the jump that I didn't even know how to like take it in or react in the beginning anyway. So as soon as I leave the hospital, I get out of the hospital, I'm literally walking out of the parking lot. Literally walking out of the parking lot. My mom calls me. I rejected it because I had a feeling I already knew what she was calling me for. I was scared as hell. So she texts me. I keep ignoring her, but she's blowing me up. So when she sees that I'm ignoring her, she starts calling my ex-best friend's phone. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, she knows something is wrong, and who told her? So at this point, I'm like asking my best friend, asking her like, yo, did you tell my mom without like my permission? Like, did you tell her? She was like, no, I wouldn't do that to you. I feel like, especially because this is your first child and that's going to be her first grandchild, you should be the one to tell her. I was like, you're absolutely right. So I knew it wasn't her. So my mom kept calling. I finally picked up the phone. I picked up the phone. I was like, hello, Mom. And she was like, yeah, what's this news that I'm hearing that you're pregnant? You're 8 weeks and 5 days. And where are these pictures coming from? I'm thinking to myself, how do you know that? Like, how do you know that? So it all comes down to the boyfriend that I was with told my mom. As soon as I told him, he ran right to my mom, sent him the pictures that I sent him of the paperwork and the urine sample that I took, that I sent him. He sent right to my mom. So at this point, I can't deny it because the paperwork says my name. It says how far along I am. And the little wristlet thing when you go to the hospital, it had my name, my middle initial, my birthday. Like, I couldn't deny it at this point. So I'm on the phone crying because it's like I could hear in my mom's voice that she was like very, very, very upset. So so we're talking a little bit or whatever, and she just like you're not too young, but you could have thought this process out better, being as though this boy isn't even your boyfriend, your husband, nothing. Like, y'all aren't committed, y'all just know each other, and y'all did what y'all did. And I was like, Mom, you're absolutely right, because I feel like everything from this point is going to be bad or like downhill. So I get back to my ex-best friend's house, and everything is cool, everything's settled down. In the meantime, by the time I got from the hospital back to her house, my mom called me again when I walked in the door, and she asked me how I'm feeling, is everything okay? And she let me know that she's not mad at me, she just wished that I made better decisions, which is very understandable because I agree as well. So like, as the time goes on through my pregnancy, at this how can I say? So after I found out I was pregnant, the boy that I was with, our relationship like automatically got rocky because I was pregnant by someone else and not him. So our relationship got very rocky. We started fighting, arguing, and it'd be over little things. And me being as though that like I'm about to be a mother soon in 9 months, and I'm gonna be a new mom. I don't know like what's the hazards of like stressing and arguing and fighting. So he was there through my whole pregnancy, don't get me wrong, he was there. But when I was about to go into labor, he left. He went back home. He was living in Philadelphia, so he went back home. And that, I want to say the same, if I'm not mistaken, it's the same day. See, it was 4 years ago, I don't really remember. But if I'm not mistaken, it was the same day. If it wasn't the same day, it was the next day. I ended up going into labor. And once he left, our relationship was over. The relationship was over, and I wasn't going to beg him to stay or beg him to play a part in my son's life, because I'm not doing that. I'm not begging another man to do anything. So I mean, I had a good support system. My mom is the best. My sister is the best. I love my brother. My brother is 18 years old. My sister, she literally, like, my son is her son, literally. And my son loves all of them. He loves his uncle, he loves his auntie, and he loves his mom till like infinity. Like, he literally loves her. So I went to the hospital, and I was 9 months pregnant. I went to the hospital because this is the funny part. So I went to the hospital because I sat on the toilet that morning and I couldn't move off the toilet. I went to the bathroom and I couldn't move, and my mom was actually on the way to the hospital, but for her own reason. But when I realized that I couldn't get off the toilet, I called my mom, and I'm like, Mom, I can't move off the toilet. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, I think my water broke, but I'm not sure. I didn't know how to tell if my water broke, so I was confused and scared. So I get to the hospital. Well, she calls the ambulance. The ambulance comes. They ask me if I'm having contractions, any pains, and I'm like, no, I feel normal. I'm fine. Get all the way to the hospital. Get to the hospital. They take me in the back. They check me. And the freaking lady tells me I'm 5 centimeters. I'm like, 5 centimeters? And the lady's like, you're having your son today. I was like, oh my God, are you serious? And she was like, yes. So me being funny because I love food, my mom, I said, well, can I eat something? She's like, no, it's too late. I'm like, too late? I love food, and you about to tell me I'm about to have my son? So she was like, no, unfortunately, you can just have ice chips. I'm like, that's not going to save me. So my mom's sitting there in the room with me laughing because I can't eat. So she's like, yeah, well, we're admitting you into the hospital tonight because you're going to have him soon. So I'm like, okay, I have no idea, literally have no idea, like, what's about to happen. Like, I have no idea. I'm lost. I'm scared. I told my mom the same thing. I said, I'm scared. I don't know what's going to happen. I've never pushed a baby out, so I had no freaking idea. So I got admitted to the hospital. They put me in my room. My mom had to leave me there by myself for like an hour and a half because she had to come back home to get the baby bag because I had no idea. My due date wasn't close. So I was kind of lost. So she had to go back to the house, get the baby bag, come back to the hospital. So they kept coming back and forth, asking me if I'm okay, if I need anything, do I need any type of pain medicine. But I was fine. I was literally fine. The whole day that they admitted me into the hospital, I was fine. So I ended up sleeping. They ended up checking my iron. They told me my iron was low, blah, 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 whatever. So let's fast forward. So it gets to about 8 o'clock. No, it gets to about 7 o'clock, and the doctor comes in and asks me if I want to get an epidural, and I'm like, yes. Now, remind you, if you don't know what an epidural is, that thing, the needle's like this freaking long, and it goes in your spine, in your back. I was scared shitless to get that needle in my back because it can literally like paralyze you. And I didn't want that, but I didn't think I could push my son out naturally. So I was just like, yeah. So, and I was also told that my mom would be able to stay with me in the room. No. I asked the doctor. He was like, no, only you can be in here with me and the other doctor. So basically the other doctor was in replace of my mom. So she was like on the side of me, holding my hand, being all nice, rubbing the top of basically my neck right here, telling me to just stay calm and don't move. So I was just like, all right. So it didn't really take long, and it didn't really hurt. It just had a little sting to it. So after I got my epidural, I was fine. The doctor came in around 8 o'clock. She came to check me, and she told me I was 5 centimeters when I first went. So by the time she checked me at 8 o'clock, I was about 7 centimeters. She said my son would be coming any minute, and that if I had, this might sound gross, but she said if I feel like I have to do number 2 to ring the bell or push the button, because it'd be time to push. So I'm thinking to myself like, okay, but I never got that feeling. About 8:15, 8:20 comes, and they check me again. I'm still 7 centimeters, but they say like he's like really, really low to where he's about to cut. Like his head is really, really low. Like she can feel his head. So they gave me some medicine because basically the medicine it's this medicine called Pitocin. They give it to you basically to make contractions. because I wasn't having any. I was just in the hospital bed with my gown on, chilling. They gave me Pitocin, the first dose of Pitocin. I didn't feel anything after the first dose. It wasn't affecting me, it wasn't bringing any contractions. Dose number 2, maybe like 3 minutes after I had it, I started getting like little contractions that would hurt, but not, they would hurt to where I can handle them. Dose number 3, it was over. It was a wrap. I was ready to get him out. So with dose 3, when I had it, it was like automatic pain. Like my stomach was just, it was tight and it was hurting, and I literally still have the picture of my 3rd dose. Right after I got it, my hair was in cornrows like this, one on this side, one on this side, and my face was like super red because I was crying because they hurt so freaking bad. So she came in, and I rung the little buzzer thing because it felt like I had to do number 2. So she told me that when I feel like I have to do number 2, it's going to be time to push. And I felt like that. She came in, she was like, "Are you ready to push?" Now this lady fooled me because she said, "Oh, he'll be out in like 3 pushes." No, it was way more. But he did my labor was easy because it didn't hurt. It didn't really hurt, but my son is crazy. When I was pushing him out, he was sucking himself back in, and I would push him out and he suck himself back in, and I would push him out. He did it one more time, and the 3rd time that he sucked himself back in, she said, "Just take a deep breath and push." So she said 1, 2, 3 push, and I pushed like as hard as I can, and he came popping out. And all I seen was my mom on my one side and my mom's best friend on the other side, and they both was crying, and all I heard my mom say was, "Oh my God, he has so much hair." I'm thinking to myself, like, this emotional behind lady. So my labor was easy. I definitely can say I do not and will never in my life regret my son. I don't care if his dad or whatever you want to call him isn't in his life, because he has someone that he looks up to. So I'm not really worried. I don't stress about it. I mean, I do get sad sometimes because it's very sad to just think like, oh well, like, why not? But that's a different story time because it's like a different story. But again, my life being an independent mother is hard at times. I can say it can be very hard, it can be stressful, it can be tiring. It's just, but then again, like, it can be tiring, stressful, you can be depressed sometimes, but then you get those days where you wake up in like a great mood and your child just makes you bloom and smile. And like, I literally can sit here, or I'll wake up in like the worst mood and my son comes in my lap, because my son is 4. He'll come sit in my lap and just give me a big tight hug and say, "Mommy, I love you." That literally makes my day. Literally makes my day. Like, he's literally the best 4-year-old that you could ever think of, because he's like sarcastic, he's funny, he can be very bad because he's a 4-year-old, so it's them terrible 4s. But I'm not gonna say that being an independent mother is easy either, because it's not. It can be very challenging at times. Kids are kids. They want things. They want to experience new things. I mean, my son is an experimental kid. He likes to do different things. He gets bored of things very fast. So I'm just gonna say before I end this video that like I said, being an independent mother can be very easy at times, and it can be very hard at times, depending on, also, if you really don't have a support system, it's gonna take a toll on you a little bit. I'm not going to say even having a support system it's going to be easier, because I'd be lying to you if I said that. But I do have a very good support system. They help me when I need the help, or when I'm down and out, when I'm sad. My mom always keeps me on the right track, right along with my sister. They're like the best two. My brother is still young. He's only 18 years old, so he doesn't really know what it's like. He doesn't have any kids. My sister doesn't either, but she's a female like me, and I'm her older sister, so it's kind of easier. So, yeah, that really sums up this story time. I originally wasn't going to say, before I end this video, I really originally wasn't going to tell you like how my son was, how can I say it? I wasn't really going to say or tell what really happened and how like my son came about, but yeah, really, you guys wouldn't have understood if I didn't explain. So, being as though that his father isn't in his life, it hurts sometimes. Honestly, it really does. It hurts sometimes. But I've been going strong, holding strong, because my son doesn't like to see me sad and cry. So I'd rather smile on his face and cry later when he's sleeping or in school. But I try not to do that, because then when I do, I just upset myself, and I don't really like being upset. I'd rather just laugh and smile. So that's really the end of this video. Before we go, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, comment down below any video ideas, pranks, vlogs, anything, story times. Just comment down any ideas down below. And also, one more thing, make sure you hit the notification bell so you can get a notification every time I drop a video. So on that note, good night.